I had just walked out of the University Health Services when my grandparents' call came through. On the other end, my grandfather's voice was frantic. He said my brother's illness was bizarre, that several major hospitals couldn't figure out what was wrong with him, and that they were driving to my city overnight. He finished with, "Be ready, you need to help look after him." I looked down at the rash spreading from under my sleeve. 4 months, it had been 4 months from the first scattered red dots to the weeping sores they were now. Their only advice had been, just put some cream on it. When the pain had me sweating and I begged to see a doctor, all I got was a cold rebuke. Stop being so dramatic. But now, for my brother, whose illness had no name, they were willing to append an entirely unfamiliar city. Suddenly, it all felt so pointless. The itching I hid under my collar, the nights I scratched until I bled, none of it, it turned out, could ever outweigh a single soft-spoken, "I don't feel good," from my brother. The moment I hung up, I pulled the study abroad application from my pocket. The tip of my pen hovered over the signature line for a moment, then I finally signed my name. Just last night, my brother, Toby, had been sending me screenshots on iMessage, bragging about the dazzling new skin he'd bought for his video game. The next morning, my grandfather's trembling voice was on the phone. "This thing with your brother, it's spooky. The big hospitals in town can't find a thing. Your mom's driving him up to you right now, overnight." My knuckles were white as I gripped the phone. He was faking it. I knew it better than anyone. For a long time now, he'd been finding creative ways to skip school, locking himself in his room to play video games under the guise of burnout. My parents never called him out on it. Instead, they would anxiously shuttle him to the hospital every single time, even when the tests came back clean. A single frown and a muttered, "I don't feel well," from him was enough to send the entire family into a tailspin. The entire family, of course, except for me. The ink on the application was still wet when my phone buzzed again. Dad, Mom, Grandma. The calls came one after another, a relay race of anxiety, each voice more strained than the last. The stack of his medical reports from our hometown was thicker than a dictionary, yet not one could pinpoint what was wrong with Toby. "You know your way around the city." My mother's voice came through the phone, heavy with a fatigue she couldn't hide. "Can you take a day off tomorrow?" "Okay," I agreed. Deep down, I didn't want to go, but my mother, she was the only one in this family who had ever offered me a shred of warmth, even if it was as scarce as starlight on a winter night. When the rash first appeared, she was the only person I told. She sent me $500 and told me to see a specialist. I hadn't even left my dorm room when my dad's text popped up, "Send that money back. Do you have any idea how hard your mother works? You dare ask for $500 for a little rash? Can you stop being so dramatic for once? Don't you know how much pressure we're under with the mortgage and the car payments?" I quietly transferred the money back, and so I waited and waited until the rash festered into open sores. "Your brother," she sighed. "You'll see when you get here. When it hits him, it's terrifying. He clutches his chest, says he can't breathe." My mother was still rambling, but I had stopped listening. Can't breathe. When I was 17, bullied by classmates and falsely accused by a teacher, I was confronting them in the principal's office when my vision suddenly went black. I couldn't breathe. I collapsed onto the floor. When I looked up, all I saw were the cold, indifferent eyes of my father and the teacher, as if they were watching a poorly staged play, as if they were thinking, "How long are you going to keep up this act?" I managed a few words of comfort to my mom, learning that she hadn't wanted to go through all this trouble. The test results were clear, after all, but she couldn't withstand the pressure from my dad and grandparents, so here they were, bringing my brother to my city. When I arrived at the hospital the next afternoon, my mom was clutching a thick folder of test results, rushing between clinics, her face a mask of exhaustion. My brother, meanwhile, was hunched over his phone, completely oblivious to the nurse calling his name. "What did the doctor say?" I asked. "We don't know yet." My mom sighed. "We've been to every hospital back home. They all say he's perfectly fine, but he just keeps saying he's in pain. Could he be faking it?" I asked, point blank. My mom froze for a second, then shook her head. "I don't think so. I've seen him when it happens. He can't breathe. He shakes all over. We've had to use a paper bag to calm his breathing more than once." Just then, the nurse called his name again. As my mother turned away, I couldn't help but let out a low, bitter laugh. I remembered not long ago, Toby had asked me with feigned concern, "What's depression? Is it scary?" I was naive enough then to think he was worried about me. I was happy about it for days. Only now did I understand. He was just gathering information, scouting out the symptoms for today's performance. I had told him then, "It's pretty serious. When it hits, my hands shake, I get dizzy, I can't breathe." I never imagined he would learn so fast. I truly couldn't comprehend how this little emperor raised in a greenhouse could possibly understand what depression felt like. He was never scolded, never hit. My parents never made demands of him. Even when he finished last in his class, they would just smile and say, "You'll do better next time." He got whatever he wanted. He lived a life of effortless comfort, but not me. I was raised on scoldings and slaps. The random blows and rebukes made me the family's default punching bag. And in all those scenes, my mother would just stand by, her eyes red, watching. Only after the beating was over would she cautiously approach, comforting me and cleaning my wounds. I spent 3 days with them at the hospital, running through nearly every department, putting Toby through a full-body workup. The results would take a few days. My mom kept staring at the rash peeking from my sleeve, her tone leaving no room for argument. "We are going to the dermatology clinic this week. You've had this rash for too long. We need to get a proper allergy test." She turned to my brother. "You're going too. Get that acne on your chin looked at. Stop picking at it or it'll scar." Toby looked up from his game, annoyed. "I'm not going. This will clear up on its own. Don't talk back," my mom said, walking over and pausing his game. "Your sister's rash is this bad. What's the harm in going with her? Think of it as keeping her company." The next day at the clinic, my mom shoved my arm in front of the doctor the moment we walked in. "Look at this, doctor. It's been 4 months, and it's not getting better. The allergies must not have been properly identified. We need a full panel today." The doctor ordered a blood test, 6 vials of blood, over $600. As we were paying, Toby clicked his tongue beside me. "It costs that much just to check for allergies." My mom ignored him, clutching the receipt and rushing me. "Go on, get your blood drawn. The sooner we know, the sooner we can rest easy." As the nurse drew my blood, my vision went black. I slumped over. In the haze, I heard Toby suddenly cry out that his chest was tight, that he couldn't breathe, followed by my mother's frantic calls. When I came to, a nurse was dabbing my forehead with a wet cotton ball, telling me I'd been out for nearly 10 minutes. I leaned on the wall as I made my way into the hallway, only to see my mom crouched by Toby's side, gently patting his back. She saw me and gave me a helpless look. "You're awake. Your brother had another bad spell just now. His face went completely pale. You should go check on him." My mouth opened, but no words came out. amount. Just then, my phone screen lit up. It was a message from my academic advisor, Ms. Keller Marin. Your study abroad application has been approved. Your visa and flights are all set. The flight is the day after tomorrow at 9 a.m. Remember to get to the airport early. Below was a list of instructions, ending with, congratulations, you finally get to see the world. I stared at the message, stunned. Finally, could I finally get away from them? Far, far away, far enough that the heavy weight of their comparisons, the sting of their neglect, could no longer reach me. When I looked up, my mom was pressing a protein bar and a Gatorade into my hands. You look so pale, it must be low blood sugar. Have something to eat. After we pay, mom will take you to get something warm. I nodded slowly, unwrapping the bar and taking a bite. As the synthetic sweetness spread, a bitter taste bloomed on my tongue. At the payment window, my mom stared at the $1,000 plus on her phone's banking app, her brow furrowed into a knot. Her finger swiped back and forth across the screen as she muttered, why is it so expensive? Just for a few vials of blood. I suddenly remembered my dad's call a few days ago. He had mentioned that Toby's recent hospital visits had already cost over $10,000. His voice was filled with anxiety about how stubborn this illness is, without a single mention of the word money, let alone expensive. My mother, she was a complicated person. Watching her profile, still agonizing over that $1,000, I suddenly felt that maybe I had never truly understood her at all. The day Toby's test results came back, my mom held the report, her fingertips rubbing over the words, no abnormalities detected, until the paper started to fray. The doctor said all his vitals were normal. If he continued to feel unwell frequently, they suggested a referral to behavioral health, as it could be an emotional issue manifesting physically. My mom nodded, her expression as calm as if she had expected it all along. It was Toby who suddenly glanced at the doctor, a flash of panic in his eyes, before quickly looking down and picking at the hem of his shirt. As we walked out,